That's a
I
really
think you
difficult
remind
problem, I think.
yourself that they were willing to have a revolution over a stamp tax. That's what I
Um,
think what you ought to be informing, which is the thing that bothers me most about Kavanaugh's stupid ass opinion. This idea, he says it. Let me see if I can find it. That somehow, if they were really to look at the issue in this case, which they said they were going to decide and didn't because they decided it more narrowly, because if they were to overturn this particular tax based upon its unconstitutionality, that would lead to a really horrible outcome, which would mean that a whole bunch of other taxes imposed by Congress might also be unconstitutional. And then they might actually have to cut important programs or tax, regular people like you. I mean,
Wait, is it?
I just want to slug him so hard in the face till his face is
Uh-oh.
pulp. It makes me so angry that he could say something so asinine and stupid and still be on the Supreme Court.
So,
Of course, Congress should not be taxing anything that is not clearly constitutionally authorized.
so,
Regardless of
I
its
was
effect on the
also
budget.
equally disappointed. I was totally
okay.
disappointed in the opinion too. And part of the, if you look at the lineup, it's Roberts and Kavanaugh, and then the three liberal justices. Kavanaugh wrote the opinion, and he said, we're not going to decide the constitutional question at all, even though that's what we granted cert on, even though that's what the Ninth Circuit below held on. The Ninth Circuit said, and the Biden administration argued, that the government is allowed to tax asset changes. There is no requirement for income that it be realized. Yeah, they were going for the Biden administration was going for the full Elizabeth Warren on this one. Because I know you guys, I don't know if Steve absorbed these vibes at his progressive conference, but progressives really think that the only way out of the financial straits we're stuck in because of their overspending is that they got tax wealth. That the income tax, believe it or not, the income tax, massive as it is, does not generate remotely close to enough to balance the deficit now. Things you're supposed to look at now when you want to understand what the amendment meant, and leaves for another day Elizabeth Warren and her buddies to try again.
So, one observation and one bit of news. The observation is, so Brett Kavanaugh really is the successor of Anthony Kennedy on the Supreme Court, right? As we clerk for it, so we replaced. And look, as we know, Kennedy left all these.
He's just Kennedy with a slightly better hair.
Yeah, right. But at the same time, he's leaving a mess behind. And second, the news flash for today is Lucretia has signed up in the Christina Blasey Ford fan club posthumously, so to speak.
Jesus.
Because you both agree that he shouldn't be on the Supreme Court, but for different reasons.
Right.
I
wouldn't say I'm the fan club. I would just say that I'm probably giving a little additional respect here. Let me just, before you go on, John, let me take this a little bit deeper for a moment, and not so that people don't think I'm just a crazy, violent person. I believe in my heart of hearts that the real point of the reason that the founders were so careful to proscribe the federal government's ability to tax wasn't because they threw tea in the harbor. They threw tea in the harbor because they believed that your property was your right, and just like the government taking away your other rights, the government taking away your property is a violation of your natural rights.
And so that's amazing. I think that's actually a major step forward. But you never know where Roberts and Kavanaugh are because they're very
they
political.
Have no principles.
Well, but in my mind, I think they secretly agree with the four conservatives, because if they didn't, then why evade the question with this narrow, weird claim that it's just about like partnerships?
I actually think it's because they believe that the government should have basically unlimited means to tax, except if there can be carved out some tiny circumscribed limits on it. I mean, that to me is the most obnoxious thing said by a Supreme Court justice in probably the last 5 years, that we can't say that this particular tax should be ruled unconstitutional because it would open the door to telling Congress you might not be able to tax other things that they really need to tax because we got to spend all that money, for God's sakes, don't you know? I mean, what an idiotic thing to say. If you could say something like that with a straight face, you're no conservative. That's all there is to it. And I'm not even a libertarian conservative, but what a
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not, it's a progressive era. It's
Yeah.
actually the high point of the progressive era is the income tax amendment. It is a rejection, isn't it? I mean, the whole progressive era is a rejection
Yeah,
of the
well,
founding.